Oh my gosh, actual pavement and lanes and markings, and holy smokes, I haven't seen this stuff in so long. Welcome back to Hourless Life. We are Eric and Brittany Highland, and along with our 6-year-old son Caspian, we are attempting to drive around the world in our home, a 2021 Jeep Gladiator we call Dauntless. Our goal with our YouTube channel is to give you a first-person point of view and show you what a real global overlanding journey is like. Hit that subscribe button. We would love to take you around the world with us. Now, in our last video, we crossed the border from Colombia to Ecuador on what was one of our hardest days so far on this entire journey. We got a lot of encouraging comments on that video, so thanks for that. And if you missed that video, we'll link it here. In today's video, we'll take you with us as we leave Dauntless behind. We fly back to the United States, pick up our Jeep Wrangler we call Guardian, then we make this huge loop around the western United States visiting family. We nearly slide off a cliff in Moab, visit more family, meet up with friends, and finish the trip off by speaking at Overland Expo West 2023. This is going to be a lot of fun, so let's pick up right where we left off and get into this. Today we're at our friend's house, packing, getting ready to fly home to the United States. So weird having not been back after so long, but we're looking forward to it. Today's packing day.
This is the current state of things. It's kind of a huge explosion trying to figure out what we can fit in 3 backpacks for 2 months in the United States.
We are on our way to the Quito airport and it has been raining, so sorry for the view, but this is the day we are headed to the United States.
We're really early for our flight, but our flight is really late. It's at 11:55.
What are your impressions of the airport?
This is a really pretty airport. It's not big. For the size of Quito, it's really, really small.
Here's what's going on. The way that it works here is that they do not let you even into the international gate until 3 hours and 10 minutes before your flight. Now, here's the situation. We have a foreign plated vehicle inside Ecuador. We're not sure if immigration is going to let us leave. We don't really have a plan B.
When we were at the Delta counter to get our boarding passes, we had a passport issue.
Yes, essentially my passport is attached to our temporary import permit, which is attached to our vehicle. And legally, you're not supposed to fly out of Ecuador if you have a foreign plated vehicle in country.
So when they scanned Eric's passport, it beeped red, and it kept doing it over and over again. And I don't know whether the lady had ever seen it before. Obviously, she probably doesn't get a lot of overlanders at her counter with foreign plated vehicles.
Yeah, I think she was confused.
Yeah.
And so what happened was she scanned my passport, it blinked red. She scanned it a second time, it blinked red. She looked at her computer, and then she called over her supervisor and told her what was going on, that it wasn't working. And the supervisor said, I think it's a technical issue, I'll call support. She scans Brittany and Caspian's passport.
And ours went right through
First time.
No alerts, no problems. And so for her, that confirmed that it was some technical issue. And she ended up manually entering your passport information, issuing us our boarding passes, and letting us go. It was still a long time until our flight.
Yep.
And so we decided to go hang out at a lounge.
So Brittany got on this kick about getting like points and miles and the right credit cards and all that kind of stuff. And apparently we have access to lounges now. Now, some of you are probably just laughing saying, hey, I've had that forever. We drive. We don't really fly that much. So Brittany got on this thing, and now...
This is my first ever free gin and tonic. So I'm feeling pretty good about this whole lounge thing.
Brittany had never had a free gin and tonic. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and to be honest, we arrived at the airport several hours early just so we could take advantage of the lounges, and it was well worth it. There was a dark room where we stuck Caspian because it was like 10 p.m. And so we were like, Caspian, lay down. But he was too excited. He couldn't sleep. As we were at the lounge, we were looking at our bags, our 3 backpacks that we use anytime we have to fly back and forth. And we realized that a lot of you here on YouTube have commented asking about our bags. So here's the skinny.
We're really grateful to Red Ox Manufacturing out of Billings, Montana. These are fantastic bags. They even embroidered them with our logo, our packs that we use to carry everything we're going to need for the next 2 months in the United States.
Case, if you have more than 2 items, please consolidate them.
Hey, look at this. There's our bird. See it right up there? That white wall, that's the airplane.
We're about to fly to our family to see some family and friends.
We have landed in Atlanta. Caspian says he's happy to be able to speak English.
But now we're on the plane train. And we're going underground.
This is it. We are on to our last flight, leaving Atlanta, Georgia, heading to Denver, Colorado.
Caspian was really excited to be able to speak in English. To be honest, I was too. However, it took a few days to get into the groove. We went to Dunkin' Donuts in the Atlanta airport, and while we were standing in the long line, Caspian was addressing everybody in Spanish, and they did not know what to do with that.
And it continued on the plane. Disculpe. Baby, we're not in Ecuador anymore.
So heavy. I have nothing left.
So don't worry if the bag doesn't inflate.
We've arrived in Denver. We're waiting on Brittany's family to come and pick us up. Caspian and Brittany are having some Einstein's bagels. We passed the Chick-fil-A at about 7 o'clock this morning, and I thought for sure Brittany was going to make a beeline for it, but she didn't.
Self-discipline.
We're excited to be home. My sister-in-law Hannah picked us up at the Denver airport and took us back to their home. Brittany and Caspian were getting settled, and I had to go check out Guardian, which we hadn't seen in 554 days. I was really excited. This shouldn't seem like a big deal, but to me, I am so stoked to drive Guardian in the United States, and just looking at the roads, and I'm like, oh my gosh, actual pavement and lanes and markings, and holy smokes, I haven't seen this stuff in so long. This is the shop where Guardian was taken in by our friend Sky, who flew down to Denver to pick up Guardian and get him into the shop, get him road ready for our 2-month journey. This is the owner, Bob. Bob, how you doing?
Doing fine, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I just want to say thank you to you and your crew, Brad, and the entire crew for taking care of us.
Our pleasure.
Why, good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Brittany. We are emptying out Guardian, taking inventory, a physical inventory of everything we have, because we did cannibalize some things to put in Dauntless. So we need to get Guardian ready. There's a few things we're going to need to go buy, but for the most part, we have a lot of the gear that we need for Guardian. So we're going to see when this list is done how it ends up.
My youngest brother Timothy and his wife Hannah have been so supportive of us along this whole global journey. When we were building out the Jeep and getting ready to leave the United States in 2021, they hosted us for like a month.
Yeah.
They've let us park our US Jeep at their house this whole time, almost 2 years. And then they hosted us again, our very first stop going back to the US. And it was so good to see them and Caspian's only cousin, Jansen.
And Brittany's family is so much fun.
This is gonna end up on YouTube, you guys, so make it work. Oh, come on.
You have to give it a little air.
This is my family, everyone.
We purposely timed our trip back so that we could be there for Easter Sunday with family. And actually my other brother had also flown in for a couple days. We didn't get any video with them. And when Easter came around, it was a pretty big day because while Caspian had done egg hunts before, he had actually never had an Easter basket. And I went a little bit crazy at Target getting stuff for it.
You left one right here.
Oh my
End
goodness.
of the trail, Caspian.
The Easter Bunny left you a whole basket?
There's
Ah.
And you found yours too.
Whoa!
a bubble machine. I've been wanting one of these. Will you open this up, Daddy?
Of course I will.
We both got like everything we've been wanting.
Wow, baby. Happy Easter, love.
You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus.
The Easter Bunny's in the backyard. What? Do you want to give the Easter Bunny a hug? No.
Oh, Easter Bunny.
Oh.
Hopefully we'll see you next year.
While we were having a lot of fun with Brittany's family, there was something really important that we needed to do. I cannot even stress how important this was.
We're at the post office in Westminster, Colorado, and we are down a passport. It is such a weird feeling to hand over one of our passports and leave without it. You have no idea. Like, my passports live on my body. And we just got some news.
So they told us originally that it was 5 to 7 weeks for the process of the passport. They just updated it like a couple days ago. It's now 7 to 9 weeks, and our plane leaves on May 31st, which is like a day after 7 weeks from today. They're not going to let you back in Ecuador if we don't get your passport. Did you know that, Caspian?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's sort of strange and mean.
We don't know if we're going to be able to leave on May 31st.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing for it. We're just gonna have to extend our tickets because Caspian can't get back into Ecuador without a passport, and we're not leaving him in the United States.
Today's our last day before leaving Denver, and I just stopped at Altitude Industries, which is the iCamper distributor for this area. Lee Hoffman, the owner, has been a long-time supporter of ours, and I just want to say hi, have him check over the iCamper, make sure everything's good for our trip around the United States. And this guy's a wizard. I mean, if you are ever thinking of iCamper or Rhino Rack or anything like that, he is the Denver area distributor. The guy knows this stuff backwards and forwards. Already he's seeing a few things that he wants to just make a few quick adjustments on. Been really happy with it. We've used it for years. We used it all over Mexico, all over Baja. It's never failed us. It's a really, really good unit.
Now when you look at the leg portion of the rack here and you pull up on this, you'll notice that this part of it is not hopping around inside the cradle. So it just basically removed all the play, keep that slamming effect from happening and reduce wear and tear.
That's what I love about the Overland community. Lee Hoffman and I have had a relationship since 2018. He's always taken great care of us. He said, "Do you need anything else?" I said, "You know, I left my Max tracks in Corpus Christi when we were switching between Guardian and Dauntless." He said, "No problem, man. I've got my own set of action tracks. You're going through some terrain of mud and snow on your way up to Seattle. You're going to be camping. You should probably have a set." So he just strapped a set onto the back. That is what the Overland community is about. And when you encounter people like Lee at Altitude Industries, man, latch onto those people.
It was a really big push to get the Jeep ready to live out of again, and balancing that with time with family. We hadn't seen them for so long, and so it was tough to balance that, but we did it, and it was finally time to say goodbye in Denver and to start making our way slowly to Seattle. But we had some exciting stops along the way. Bye, Jansen!
Bye,
Love you guys!
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jansen!
We left Denver today and we are headed west through the Rocky Mountains. Oh my gosh, they are so beautiful. We are so happy to be back in the United States, seeing these places that we love so much. We've only had one hiccup so far, and that is that our fridge isn't working. Not sure when we're gonna get that fixed. Maybe in Moab or Salt Lake City, we can find someone to service the fridge. How are you doing, Eric Highland?
I'm doing great. The roads are paved, lines, good signage. It is refreshing to be home and just have this rejuvenating break of just driving on roads that really aren't stressful for us. It's kind of strange being back in Guardian. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it's not just that the Jeep is different, it's that we're different and we're used to a different rhythm in Dauntless. And I think ideally we would be able to implement some of the things we learned from Dauntless into this Jeep. It's just gonna take some time to get settled. How are you doing, Caspian?
I'm enjoying being back in Guardian. I really like it, and so does Mommy.
Some of you know this and some of you don't. We traveled full-time around the United States for 7.5 years, and we saw all of the United States.
Caspian has spent at least one night in all of the lower 48 states.
But after traveling all the way down to Ecuador in our Jeep and having been out of the United States for so long, when we got back to the United States, we were seeing it with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever appreciated the beauty of the Rocky Mountains the way that we did this year when we went back. So we have longtime friends from our days of full-time RVing, and they are now settled on the Western Range in Colorado, and they very kindly invited us to come see them. And they had a surprise for us as soon as we got there, and they took us to see some baby goats.
Cover your nose!
We've been invited by some friends to do stuff that you do in Colorado, like feed baby goats.
This is like crazy cool. And they're just hungry. You just walk over there, pick them out of a pen, pick them over the fence, and then they come and you just feed them. And then they've got to go into a different pen.
That was amazing. I loved it. That was super spontaneous. We basically arrived. The farmer was like, if you're here to feed goats, we're doing it now. Get a goat, feed the goat, put the goat back. It was wild, and in just a few minutes it was done. Mark and Julie Bennett run RV Love. It's this amazing resource center for RVers, and they've been developing it for years. They've written books, and they're just such positive, lovely people. This was the best 2-on-2 time that we had ever spent together. It seems like we're always at events and we're presenting and it's crazy. So it was so nice for them to show us some of the places they love in their local area and to get to know them better.
You can tell I don't have kids. I'm like, you know, you gotta get circles.
I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Wow, you're flying!
Brittany just said this one's really high. I just want to see you get down. There's only one sane person in the Highland family, and it's not these two. After our time with our friends, we headed to one of our favorite cities in the entire United States, Moab, Utah. And of course, we made the obligatory stop at Milt's, the burger drive-in joint, which you kind of have to go to. And then
it was time to go find our camping spot. And we really like the wild camping along Yellow Circle Road because of its proximity to town. And since we weren't there to off-road this time and we didn't have a lot of time to spend in Moab, Yellow Circle was the area for us. And we kind of wanted a view up on the hill, but one thing that we haven't had to deal with in a long time in Central America and South America is the wind. And we kind of forgot what it was like to camp in heavy wind, and that's what we encountered as we were looking for a campsite.
we were up on the cliff, but it was way too windy, so we decided to come to this place. Now, what's interesting about this place is that we're sheltered. There are hills all around us, as you can see, that block the wind. Every other camping area down here is full. Unless you've got high clearance, 4 low, you're not getting back here. So we're kind of here all by ourselves.
We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties, and now we can go to your Frankfurter parties. Good grief, groaned the ones who had stars at the first. We're still the best snooches, and they are the worst.
We ended up going to Brittany's favorite campsite in all of Moab. That night, after Brittany had read to Caspian and put him to bed, we laid down, and a few hours later, it just started. Thunderstorm and lightning and rain, and my heart sank because I knew the ground conditions were going to be really bad in the morning, and I told Brittany this, and she didn't think they were going to be.
I was hopeful.
She was wrong.
It rained and snowed last night, and the ground is a lot less forgiving than it was when we came in here. So we're gonna see if we can get out over the mud and down the hill. Before going over this rise, Eric asked me if I wanted Caspian to get out of the Jeep. I could barely keep my feet under me because the mud was so slick. And so I didn't really want Caspian going down the hill on foot. Who knows what the right choice was, but that was the choice that we made. Over the rise, there was a drop off on the driver's side. And not only that, but the trail actually sloped toward the driver's side.
As I went over the rise, I just felt my tires lock up and I just started sliding. And I was sliding straight towards this drop off, which is actually a little cliff. And I was just sliding straight towards it and there was nothing I could do. My tire hit a rock and I got a tiny bit of traction and I overcompensated to the right side.
That was super scary. So after the scariest moment going down the hill, Eric made it through that with Caspian in the Jeep. And then there were some rocks on the next section, so the Jeep had some traction. But once we rounded the curve at the bottom, there were no more rocks, only mud, and that is where we got stuck.
At Hourless Life, we have an affinity for mud. That section there was the sketchiest because there's a drop off, but we made it through. And then we got here and we just started sliding.
We attempted to put rocks so that we don't slide forward anymore. And in the back, we have our 2 recovery boards that were lent to us by friends. So we're gonna try and go straight in reverse to get back on the road. And that's the first step.
We're getting them back out now, and we're gonna put them under the front tires. And we still have this little gatekeeper here, which was fine yesterday when we went through it, but it hadn't rained. So we've got to go down this embankment and up there. The other recovery board is actually underneath Guardian right now. We'll have to get that out in just a second. Is it stuck?
No. I may be an overlander, but I don't actually like having mud on me. It's gross.
Hardcore recovery expert, Brittany Highland at your service.
All right, come take over. There you go. There you go. You're on them. Stop, 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 stop.
Brittany and I are very cognizant about not going off trail, and unfortunately I'm sliding. There's really not much I can do. So as soon as we started sliding off trail, I did my best to stop. We're gonna grab the traction boards, put them under the front tires because they're working as long as we're on them. As soon as we get off them, we're sliding. We're gonna try and put them underneath the tires. We only have 2. Move a little bit, stop the Jeep, replace them, put them again, stop the Jeep, replace them, put them again until we can get back on the main road.
There you go. A little bit more. Turn a little bit more. Okay, you're going. Stop, 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 stop. I don't know if you're gonna get up or not. It's trying to slide.
This was a long and slow process. We kept moving the boards one after another, and this is just another example of how you've got to be patient, work together. But we got through it, and we set up the boards one more time.
You're on. You're on them. This one's almost off.
It was an epic moment. There was mud flying all over the place. I could hardly see. I went down through the gatekeeper, up the other side, spit in mud, turned the corner, got over there, got out, like just happy, just excited that I was done. And I said, Brittany, did you get it? And she said,
No. I was so distracted by watching this moment that it was the only part of the whole recovery that I forgot to record. I could not believe it.
After all that, in the moment of climax, I did not get it on video. Eric basically gunned it off of the traction boards, went down into the wash and back up, and he got out. We're back on high ground.
this is the track that Guardian left as I exited. There's this little gatekeeper. It's a lot deeper than it looks on video, but it goes down and then back up, and you can see where the recovery boards are there. And this is the road that we came down.
I'm thankful that we're out. I think that the lesson that I took away from this was to really consider upcoming weather conditions before picking a camping spot, because when we went in, everything was dry. We weren't tearing the trail up at all. We got in safely, but coming out was a totally different story. And this is not treading lightly. Definitely never want to do this again, and we'll take steps to avoid doing this in the future.
I'm thankful too that we're out of that mess. Also thankful to my friend Lee Hoffman at Altitude Industries, who hooked us up with his own personal recovery boards. Without those boards, there's no way we would have been out of this mess unless it was a whole lot of shovels, a whole lot of rocks, and a whole lot more time. Oh man, what a morning. We even got it on top of the iCamper. We've got it on the Rhino-Rack Batwing. It's all over the place. Caspian, what were your thoughts on that muddy situation?
I thought it was so scary.
You thought it was scary?
Uh-huh.
Why did you think it was scary?
Because I didn't think we were able to get out.
But did we get out?
Yes.
It was a weekend night, and with all of our prior experience of Moab, we just knew that almost everywhere was going to be full.
I told Brittany, I don't care where we camp as long as we don't have to drive through mud to get there.
We decided to take a long shot and start trying out the campgrounds along the river. Actually, we had never camped along the river before, so it sounded like a fun thing to try. So we started with the first campground, and we were going to go from there, farther away from Moab.
And we made it to Goose Island Campground, and as I was going around, I went over this speed bump, and we heard this big clunk underneath Guardian, and I'm like, oh gosh, now what? But there was this guy that was camped there, and he came out because he saw that we were like looking at the Jeep, and
we started going back and forth over the speed bump,
just so
and
we could hear the noise
Eric
again.
was getting out and listening, and we were trying to troubleshoot.
And he came alongside to troubleshoot, and eventually we made friends, and he was like, what are you guys doing? We told him we're driving around the world, and we're trying to get up to Seattle, but we're looking for a place to stay. And he's like, why don't you just camp with us tonight? And so we did.
And we had an awesome experience with them. We had great conversation over the fire pit. It was spontaneous and fun. We finished our very short and very dramatic stay in Moab. We had to keep moving down the road, going to Seattle to see Eric's mom.
We had been invited by some very, very dear friends of ours, the Powers family, who live just outside of Salt Lake City, to come and stay with them. Now, this is a very special family. They have been incredible. Not only are they friends, they're patrons, but they flew out to visit us in Mexico. They flew out to visit us in Costa Rica. When we were having a really hard time in Honduras, they got us an Airbnb in Honduras.
So that we could relax a little bit and recoup.
Yeah, and then Sky flew down to Denver to get Guardian ready for this trip. I mean, an amazing, amazing family. And so we were excited to go and spend time with them, but Sky's a pilot, so he wasn't even there. We got to spend time with Tanya and Olivia, though, and they are so precious to us.
Yeah, and Olivia and Caspian really get along. They both have amazing imaginations, and it was fun to see them play together.
You are now queen.
I now declare you first in guard. You are the highest in command of all of the guards of the castle. And my second decree will be, I'm going to go find the Constitution wherever it is.
Third decree is ice cream.
Yep.
Ice cream!
Come on!
After our harrowing experience in Moab, Tanya and Olivia were such great hostesses. We took our hot showers, we ate some really good food, we walked around town, but we were having two issues with the Jeep. One was that sound, and the other was that our fridge was still broken.
And we were hoping to get both of them taken care of in Salt Lake City. And I ran into this guy named Don from SLC Built Jeeps that actually has a shop that he works at. And so I pulled in, it was full. Like there was
barely room for us to pull into the parking lot.
Right. And I got out of the Jeep and he saw the Jeep and he came over and he's like, what's going on? I told him. He like removed a vehicle off a rack, got in Guardian, pulled him on there and just started going to work.
He was done in no time. It was unbelievable.
Now that he's got it lifted a bit, you can see how far off center it was up there. My man Don, taking care of business. I really appreciate you, Don. Thank you so much for the help. Jeep community, always taking care of us. This is SLC Built Jeeps. You guys check them out. He just burned through the work, got it done, got out, and I was like, hey man, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough because we're on this timeline. And I was like, listen, man, how much do I owe you? And he said, nothing. I was like, what? I said, no, I got to pay you. He goes, no, man, you're part of the Jeep community. We got you. Love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, wow.
It was such a blessing. And with that one issue out of the way, it was time to tackle the fridge. And so we went the best place that we knew to go, which was Equipped Expedition Outfitters. Paul May is one of our gear sponsors, and they supplied us with our National Luna fridge in Dauntless, which has been an unbelievable product. One of our most used and most important products is our fridge. And the same was true in Guardian, where we had an old ARB fridge that we got a long time ago. We had already been on the phone with ARB support, gone to another shop, and we could not get this fridge fixed. And so we went to Equipped and we got to see their new showroom there, which was also unbelievable. They got their new showroom while we were out of the country, so it was our first time seeing it. So we took a tour, got to talking to Paul about the fridge, and we were in for our second surprise of the day.
We had no doubt that Paul would know what was wrong with this ARB fridge or tell us how we could fix it or tell us what we needed to do. So we actually yanked the fridge out, brought it into the showroom, plugged it in, troubleshooted it. Turns out that the fridge was working, but we had a battery issue, and so that was a whole different thing. But meanwhile, Paul was like, hold on a second. And he goes out and he pulls his personal vehicle around, gets it right next to Guardian, has his guys yank out his brand new National Luna fridge, and said, we're going to put this in Guardian for you. We're your sponsor. You're not driving around the United States with somebody else's fridge. So we were like, wow. So we got a brand new fridge, and then they helped us with the battery. So it turned out that our secondary battery was an issue, and we went and got a new battery, and Drew started putting in the fridge, replaced the battery, and he even let Caspian help.
The insane thing was that we just dropped in on them during a work day, and Drew was doing other things. It's not like he was sitting around twiddling his thumbs, but he dropped everything to wrench on our Jeep to get the battery replaced and the new fridge installed, and it was such a gift.
Yeah, Equipped Expedition Outfitters, thank you. We can't thank you guys enough for just being behind us on this journey, both internationally and at home.
Part of the urgency of getting all the Jeep work done is that we actually had a camping reservation at a place that I had wanted to stay at for years since Caspian was a baby, and it had never worked out before. And that was Antelope Island State Park, which is a little ways outside the city of Salt Lake City, on the water with a herd of bison. Our night in Moab was cold, but our night outside Salt Lake City was even colder. But it was still amazing. I mean, being on the lake, there was never a time that we couldn't see bison right from our camp spot. It was so worth it, and I'm so glad that we did it. But the weather was only going to get colder from there. This is what happens when you drive through Idaho in April. The camera's on you, mister.
The wind is really pushing Guardian off to the side. It is 32 degrees out and snowing, as you can see. Brittany has found a little hotel in a small town called Burley, Idaho. Actually, we're gonna stay in a hotel, have some nice hot showers and some good rest as we continue our way to Seattle, Washington. Talk about cold. I am so glad that Brittany got us this hotel in Burley, Idaho. When we pulled into the hotel and I was unloading the bags, I think my hands froze. Like, it was so cold. Leaving the hotel in Burley, Idaho, we were making tracks to Seattle. So we continued along that journey and we got all the way to Seattle. And of course, just like my tradition has been for years and years, the very first stop in Seattle is my favorite restaurant in the entire world.
Here we are, we made it. Our first stop in Seattle. This little boy is super excited. Look at that dance. Daddy's really excited too.
Where are we at, Caspian?
Dick's Drive-In!
We are at Dick's Drive-In, my favorite restaurant in the whole world. I'm so excited, so's Caspian. Oh my gosh, you guys. I can't.
You happy?
When we left the United States in October 2021, we thought our first trip back would be for Christmas 2023. So this trip to the United States that this whole video was about, it was unplanned. But as time went on and we were outside of the United States for longer, we really felt that we needed to make an extra trip back to see Eric's mom. And that was the main reason that we made this trip.
Casi 92 años, ¿eh?
Adios.
Adios!
Bravo!
While we were in Seattle visiting my mom, one of the local overlanders found out that we were in town and said, hey, we've got this large event happening in Enumclaw. Would you guys be willing to come and speak and like show off your Jeep and talk to us about your global overlanding trip? And so Michael at Rigs and Adventures and I started talking. We eventually decided to go out there, had a great time, spoke a little bit about the overlanding journey, shared our setup of Guardian, answered a bunch of questions, and just enjoyed the company of fellow overlanders.
Yeah, as we know, overlanding the United States is still fairly new. And so there were a lot of people at the event who were still building out their rigs, planning their travels, and kind of figuring out the whole territory. So it was really fun to share our experience with them and really try and orient them more on the experiences that we can have traveling than on the vehicles themselves.
After the event with Michael and the folks at Rigs and Adventures, we went back to see my mom one more final time. We didn't know it at the time, and this is kind of hard for me to talk about because it's really fresh. But this was the last time we would see my mother alive, and so this time was very precious, and I'm glad I caught some of this on video. She actually gave me a poem at the very end, which talks about if your mother is still with you, and this is her doing that poem.
Si tienes una madre todavía, da gracias al Señor que te ama tanto, que no todo mortal contar podría dicha tan grande de placer tan santo.
When we left Seattle, the plan was really just to take the fastest route south to California. But as we were going, I floated an idea to Eric, which was to take a detour to one of my favorite regions of the country, the Oregon coast. And he entertained me. And so we ended up revisiting a lot of our favorite haunts from 2019, which is the last time we visited. And so we landed at Beachside State Recreation Site for camping. We explored the town of Yahats and went down to the water where they have some really heavy surf and it's cut into the rock, and Caspian and I clambered over the rocks and we had New England clam chowder, and it was so cold. We were there in June last time, and this time it was April. Big difference, but it was still such a joy. We were still just enjoying being in the United States and being in our home country.
We made our way all the way down to Los Baños, California to visit our big kids and to see our two amazing grandkids, Maxon and Mateo.
Yes, our daughter Ariana has two sons. Maxon is 3 and Mateo is 1. And we had actually never met Mateo before because we were out of the country when he was born. And so it wasn't about doing a lot of stuff, doing any fancy touristy stuff. We just spent time together. We just played and shared meals and enjoyed their company.
Who's going higher?
Definitely me.
Ooh!
No, me!
No, me.
No, my head's the height of the bar!
Mine's higher than the bar.
Nope, yours is only part way.
I guess we'll have to review the video footage and see.
Watch the ball, Max. Watch the ball. There you go! We had a really great time with family. Like Brittany said, we were just having family time. And there was this county fair, and my son Javen is like this gymnastics coach, and he was training all these kids, and he was having a big performance. So we all decided to go to the county fair, and while we were there, Caspian went on this jumpy thing.
Here goes Caspian!
and he got really brave and started jumping around, and then shared this like rainbow
snow
cone, that's what it is. Beautiful time with family, much needed. And from there we headed towards Flagstaff, Arizona, which was going to be our next stop. But first, before Expo, we decided to spend some time with our friends.
We ended up in Flagstaff several days before the beginning of Overland Expo West, and so we used those days to spend some really amazing time with our friends, the Hart family. We originally met them down in Mexico when they were overlanding as a family of 6. We saw them again in Guatemala. You'll remember them from our video about Antigua and Semana Santa. We were thrilled to be reunited. We had awesome camping experiences together. We also took a day trip to Sedona, and we took another day trip out to Sunset Crater National Monument. That was on Mother's Day, and Anna and I decided that spending Mother's Day at National Park Service sites was a really good idea.
After our time with the Harts, we headed to Overland Expo, which is why we went to Flagstaff, where we spoke 13 times combined between the two of us. Caspian even grabbed the mic at one of our sessions.
So we would just play and go moving. So I got my rain jacket, and then I went out to play, and it got stronger, and then we hopped in the Jeep.
We always have a great time at Overland Expo.
Yeah, we love it. It's a wonderful community, and after so many years there, since 2019, so many times presenting, we have a ton of friends. And so it was a wonderful one stop to reunite with a lot of people that we care about and see how the overlanding community is growing and changing in the years that we've been out of the country.
We left Flagstaff, we headed back to Denver. One of my friends, a guy named Paul Carroll, who owns Adventure Tool Company, invited me up to his shop, which is just outside of Boulder, Colorado, to go see what's going on up there. When I got up there, he surprised me and he said, "Eric, we'd like to get behind you on this trip." And he connected us with a bunch of his tool rolls. Now, just for the record, I already owned 2 of his tool rolls before this meeting. Like, I'm a big fan of Adventure Tool Company, and I already purchased another set with a full kit inside, and he literally sewed some custom tool rolls on the spot. Some cockpit tool rolls for me. So one for Guardian and one for Dauntless that I ended up bringing back with me.
At our last stop in Denver, not only did we get to see my brother and his family again, but my parents even came into town for a little while. So Caspian got to see Mimi and Nunu before we left the country. We knew that this trip to the United States was going to be a whirlwind. Our focus was family. We just wanted to invest as much of ourselves, be as present as we possibly could after having been away from them for a year and a half. And so we didn't put up any YouTube videos while we were there. We hardly worked at all, but we took away memories that we will cherish forever. And we're so glad that we made the trip. And we thank you all for being patient with us while we didn't put up videos during that time. We are back now. So we finished our trip, said goodbye to our family, and it was time for quite a number of plane rides to get back to Quito, Ecuador.
I had one of these from another Delta flight, but it fell under something.
Oh, well, now you got another one, so you're good to go. That's awesome.
We've made it back to Ecuador. Going to get our bags. It's late. It's been a really long day. We are ready to continue the adventure. And so it begins. All the service that's here in Latin America. My man just grabbed our bags and said, "Let's go."
In our next video, we take you to North Ecuador, north of Quito, as we explore Mindo Valley, a beautiful area of nature with a lot of things to do. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you along on this adventure. You can also go behind the scenes with us on Patreon, where we get really transparent about what it's like to drive around the world as a family of 3. We will see you next time.